This is Terry, and I'm here with Rod Sickler and Zach Sickler. Zach is Rod's son. We're doing a candid interview on A Christmas Carol, which is a play that just finished up yesterday, and they had a wrap up on it. I had the opportunity to see Rod as Scrooge in this play. Just realized that his son was in the play as well as the earlier Scrooge.
In the same role?
Yeah, in the same role. So I wanted to just take a minute and talk to Rod about this, because I had no idea that Rod had this kind of talent. I don't think a lot of people do. Some people don't. So I want to talk about this play and you playing the role of Scrooge.
When the director came to me, she said, "Rod, I have a role for you," and I love this director. She's one of my two favorite people.
Let's give her a shout out at Rantoul Theatre Group. Yeah.
God bless her. She's wonderful. I love working with her. Love her as a person. Love her as a director.
I want to talk about this play and you playing the role of Scrooge and how this came about and how long you've been doing it. And I could tell by watching it that is something you're very passionate about. So
for me, Terry, it is my passion is acting. I always really, my whole life as a child, I dreamed of being an actor and wanted to go to school. I went to barber school first when I was 17, almost 18, just to go there for a year as a way to help support myself to go to get a theater degree. My father passed away when I was 13 years old, so I was able to draw Social Security, which would have helped me at that time in my life to go to college. And for some reason, I kind of been sidetracked by hair for the last 37 years. So when I grow up someday, I really still want to be an actor. But I think maybe I started acting in grade school, and I got really more serious about being an actor as far as community theater the last 17 years. And the Christmas Carol was a little bit of a bittersweet moment for us in that I loved the play, but it was after 17 years, the group, which I was a big part of. I was the past president of the group. I've been on the board for probably 15 of the 17 years. We lost our theater. That was our final curtain that Sunday. So it was very emotional. I don't know if you saw when I took my final bow, I went down and I kissed the stage goodbye. Maybe I should work that if God gave me a certain thing, this is what I'll give you that you can work on. It's acting.
It's your gift. It's a gift.
My gift. I'm not saying I'm a gifted actor. I'm saying it was my gift.
Well, from what I've seen, you are.
Thank you.
You playing the part of Scrooge was to me it was mesmerizing. I know a lot of people that have seen it. It was mesmerizing. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this interview is because people do know you as Rod Sickler, Rod Sickler Salon, Red Hot winner, a musician.
Yes.
You've had several bands.
Yes.
Most recently, Johnny May, the band named after your mom.
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's correct.
But they don't get the opportunity to see you.
That side. Really,
yeah. Maybe for me, like if there's anything like I've made my living through art my whole life, but if you ask me, like if you told me I'm going to die next week, it would say, "Rod, you've done this show, you've done this show, all this, you've been in this band, whatever." So as an artist, and you worked as an artist for 37 years, what's the one thing when you die next week? What do you want people to remember you for? What's your one piece of art that you're really, and I never get prideful, trust me, but if you say...
No, you're very humble.
What are you proud of as an artist? What do you think is the best work you've ever done? It'd be a very simple answer to that. It'd be two things. It'd be my role as Charlie Gordon in a play called Flowers for Algernon, which was about 10 years ago.
We were both on that.
No, it was about 10 years ago, and then as Scrooge. And as an actor, I have to tell you, I've had the opportunity to play two different Oscar-winning roles. One was Charlie Gordon. Cliff Robertson won the Oscar in 1968 for that in a movie called Charlie. The play was Flowers for Algernon, but the movie was Charlie. And then I played McMurphy in Cuckoo's Nest, which Jack Nicholson won. But Scrooge is tougher. Scrooge is a tougher role, and I think it's because it's so classic. Everyone knows it, and everyone has an idea of it. So. I'm not going to fall.
Touch my hand and you will be safe.
Let's hear it.
Touch my hand.
For me, I never saw Christmas Carol. I didn't like the movie growing up, and here's why I think.
Your son said the same.
I completely agree.
I think it scared. Here's why. As a tradition in our family, I grew up. We opened our Christmas presents for some odd reason, I think because my mom liked to sleep in and she didn't want us waking her up first thing Christmas morning. So we would always go to church on Christmas Eve, then come home, have a light dinner, then we'd open our presents. And I would get so excited over Christmas and the presents, it used to drive me crazy to the point where I try not to even think of presents anymore. But as a kid, it was so much.
Is that why you give presents 2 months early now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would get so excited, and then we'd open all the presents, and not that I was a ungrateful little child, but you have that post-Christmas depression because you lead up to this for a month, and then all my presents are open.
They're gone, yeah.
Even though I had some really good stuff, My presents were open, so then right after that, then the stupid black and white movie, A Christmas Carol with Alistair Sims, would come on with these scary ghosts, And I was scared as the dark as a kid, so they'd have these scary ghosts. We lived in this old house, and it was upstairs, and I was afraid of the dark, and I was afraid of ghosts, and I didn't like it. So I didn't like the ghosts. I didn't like Alistair Sims. I didn't like
that your
Scrooge,
presents were gone.
and I didn't like that my presents were gone. So I never watched it. So. So anyway, getting back to then Scrooge and understanding him. So Charles Dickens hated being poor. He hated having to work like a man at 12. So think about what Scrooge was now. So that's the motivation, I think, of what Scrooge. Now, there's some subtle things in the play that you have to understand to then understand who is Scrooge. Scrooge was not born that way. Scrooge was made that way.
Clearly, your son was,
Yeah, he
because
was
your son
good.
played the earlier Scrooge.
Yeah, and
right?
Two completely different people.
Scrooge was shown 3 different levels in Christmas Carol. He's shown as a small child at a school, whether it was a boarding school or a boys' home, whatever it was, his family was poor. Scrooge came from poor beginnings, so we're talking Scrooge now, not Charles Dickens. So whatever this place was, whether it wasn't pleasant. So you see him in the role as Scrooge is when he's starting to feel power and starting to understand because he's smart. Scrooge is not stupid. First of all, people think Scrooge is like this 80-year-old crotchety man. Scrooge is not. Scrooge is probably my age. I'm 54. Scrooge is probably about my age. Probably looks 64 to 70 because times are hard, and he was miserly because he wouldn't spend money on heat and things like that because he was so stingy, okay? So he was probably mid-50s to late 50s, and he worked all the time. At 80, you wouldn't work like that, and life expectancy wasn't even that. Well, 80 then was like 95 now. So you have to think all these things if you really want to truly become and embrace a character. Now, there's a scene in the play where his sister came to him, and he's a child, and I say to the Ghost of Christmas Past, she said, a child by himself, yes, spirit, yes, the forgotten self I used to be, because I was all alone. So you think on Christmas, and his sister Fan comes to him, who he loved. Charles Dickens' sister died. She's based after Fan was Charles Dickens' real sister, who died, who had a boy who was crippled. So his nephew was actually the basis of Tiny Tim. Charles Dickens. So that's where the correlation comes in with Tiny Tim. So Charles Dickens is writing this from his past, his Ghost of Christmas Past. So so you take Scrooge and you look at this, and you look at Scrooge, and there's this boy by himself, and his sister says, Father said you can come home now. Father said you can come home and be a man, meaning go to work. So what he's thinking is, oh, I can come home because they love me. No, you can come home so you can work to help support the family. That's why Fan didn't understand what she was telling him. But for him, she said, Father was nice. I could talk to him last night, because his father, which we didn't see in there, but think about Scrooge, okay? As a boy, he's at some awful home. His parents didn't love him enough to let him live there. When they did let him come home, it's so that he could work to help to support the family, okay? Now, you think in 1800s, a poor family like Scrooge, what do you suppose happened to him at that home? He was certainly emotionally abused. I'm certain Scrooge, even though it's fictional, but in my mind, to understand the character, physically abused, probably sexually abused, you know? I hate to say that, but in my mind, that's what Scrooge, why did he get to this point? You have to understand, Scrooge was good at one time. How did he get to have such a dark heart? Well, it goes back, and also I talked
Unloved.
yeah, and also I talked to a therapist about trying to understand what's this going to happen to a boy like this. And so he had no connections of love, no nurturing mother, no love, no affection, no tenderness, and abuse. I had to be abuse in his past. When other kids are opening up their Christmas presents, he's at a boys' home alone with whoever was left there that didn't want to be there on Christmas Eve. And things were covered, it wasn't like it is now, so horrid. He had a horrid childhood. So you have to think about that when you're getting into the character of what happened, okay? So you understand that. Then when he did get money, he felt that power because he was smart. He was a brilliant businessman.
And then to kind of touch on, especially the scene from the play, his sister comes to him and says, Father says you can come home now. That was during the Christmas season.
Yes.
So he thinks he's going home because his family wants him and loves him, but really it's to go home and work. So that then kind of correlates to why he hates Christmas so much, because he thought he was going home because his family loved him. So he associates Christmas with a horrible, miserable time in his life, and that kind of comes back to show why he hates Christmas so much.
And then to take it a step further, the only person that kind of took him in, that showed him any sort of kindness, or the only friend he thought he had, and it says in the play, he said, when it goes to Christmas past, or before that, it was Jacob Marley, who'd been dead for 7 years, died on Christmas Eve.
Okay,
He died
so
7 years ago this
his
very
business
night.
partner.
His business partner.
that was his business partner.
Jacob
Okay.
Marley, who was older, who took him into his business and taught him.
him the ropes.
So the only person that he thought was his friend died on Christmas Eve.
Okay, wow.
So you have to say, why is he this person? Because he's dark. So you have to understand the character at a certain point then, as you're leading up, like the week before, or then the actual performances, is then it's all the process of getting into character. So that, like, for me, some people say I'm a method actor. I'm not so much a method actor as much as, because method, sometimes you think of things from your past to make you sad, and which I have that one thing that I can go to if that, I watched my father get killed when I was 13 years old, so that would be something that you want
Oh,
candid.
see,
This
there's
is
so many
candid.
things I'm learning
Yeah,
about you.
this is candid. So at age 13, which is such a tough age to watch your father get hit by a car in front of you, and also my father was disabled, strong, healthy, workaholic, strong work ethic, went to work one day and became paralyzed, got hit in the head with ice and snow in Kraft Humco, hit him in the back of the head, so he was paralyzed from age 7 up to the point where he could just barely walk with a cane. And then him and I were alone in Texas together, and we had car trouble in 1974. Pickup truck, we're on one side of the road, pickup truck stopped on the other on the interstate. My father said, wait in the car. He was reaching to get, he couldn't move quickly, and a car hit him and killed him. So, method for me, well, that's about as sad as you can get. But even for that, I find that doesn't work as well as truly getting into the character and
Just being
understanding.
Scrooge.
Yeah, like I know you came to see me and he said he's in character. He can't
Right,
speak to you.
yeah, I did. I backstage, I was like, can I see Rod? Where's he at? And Zach here was
There was
like,
only two people. My line coach, Karen, would, and here's what she would do. She would come in and, because she's a kind-hearted human being, like truly,
Yeah.
kind-hearted, like you can't imagine how kind this person is. She would come in, wouldn't speak to me, and there's a song I used, and it's called Christmas Eve by Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And there's the first 30 seconds, it's very dramatic and kind of sad, and then it builds, boom, 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 boom. And it's based off of Carol of the Bells, boom, 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 boom. But it's this like powerful, hard-hitting song. So I played just the first 30, I would sit there, she'd just sit there.
and you're doing this backstage.
This is backstage in the
my
dressing
dressing room, because I asked for a private dressing room so I could stay away. So the first night, it's like I tried to get into character. We were supposed to go on at 7, but the Lincoln's Challenge, they were marching over. So I get into character, and leading up to the play, the director, Jess, she should have a talk with us. She said, okay, 5 minutes, we go. Well, I couldn't properly get into character, right? So the night when we knew Lincoln's Challenge was coming, it's like, okay, I can do this. So I was ready to go on at 7. Well, we didn't go on until 10 till 8. So really, opening night was the first night I really, really got into the character the right way, because I was able to know we were going on at 7:30. I could go through the process. So I would start every day. I'd start about 6:30. Perfect world, say if we went out at 7:30, I'd start about 6:20. Karen, my line coach, would come in and we'd run the play. I would run the play. Speed run. I would run it on my iPad app. I'd run it on the way up fast, and then she'd come in and we'd run it like as fast as we could, double time. Boom, 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 boom.
Go through the whole play in
The
about,
whole
what,
play.
20 minutes?
And like
maybe?
20 minutes or less.
Wow.
Yeah, like that, like that, just as fast as I could. Okay? And then, so I'd have to know that it was perfect. Did I know lines? Yeah. But for me, it's the process. Preparing to fail is failing to prepare. So I didn't want to not give every effort because I didn't do the process. Okay? So that'd be 6:20. Okay? At 10 till 7, I would start getting into costume. And then I would remove myself from everyone. He would be in there with me, but we wouldn't talk a little bit. Maybe we'd do our little dance together each time. We wouldn't really talk.
And that was almost more just for...
Just to do it.
Yeah,
That's
just
the process.
because it was
And I'm
part of-
superstitious. Yeah.
Exactly. We were
I'm
parked in the
not
same
superstitious,
spot and-
but I'm superstitious because
Why not? Just in
why
case?
not?
Yeah,
Just,
just
in
in
case.
case.
Let's
Just
just do
in
it the
case.
exactly same way. Let's drive the same way. Let's park the same pot. Let's
Oh,
do
that's
everything
funny.
exactly the same
And
way.
so even that, we don't even talk about that.
Yeah.
We didn't speak, but I would just give them a look and I'd say,
yeah.
and then we would do our dance real quick and then I would go going through my
I would stop
process.
speaking to people about 50 minutes before the process, and I'd start getting into character then as I was getting dressed with everything, and then I'd blast the music. I brought a speaker, so I'd play the music really loud and just over and over and over and get into that. Then at 7:15, my line coach Karen would come back into the dressing room, and she would sit there. I wouldn't say a word. She wouldn't say a word. I'd sit because she's kind-hearted, so I had to find Scrooge, nice Scrooge, kind Scrooge first before I went into the dark side.
Oh, yeah.
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 So I had to find him. So I would, and it just depended on how long it would take. I would play the first 30 seconds of that song
On repeat.
on repeat and repeat it until I was crying, until I got to that place of Scrooge and understanding, until I would cry. And then once I was there, she would get up and leave. Wouldn't never say a word to me.
Oh my goodness.
Never say a word to me. Okay? And she would leave. She'd
And
usually.
I would usually leave at this point,
She-
so that
yes.
I would go out and then go through my process, which was completely different
Yeah.
than what his is.
Yeah,
but
we'll talk about your
And,
process.
and it,
yeah.
it would take me about 3 minutes to get there usually about that. She'd go, and then at that point, then I would wipe my tears and never hear that 30 seconds again. I kept playing then the powerful, the hard, the strong music.
So music,
Music
Played a
got me.
huge
I always wanted to
instrument.
use this song in a show, but I couldn't because it's the best song ever. Because
I agree. I know exactly what song you're
that
talking
song,
about.
yeah, so I always wanted to use it, but I could never use it because it's a Christmas song. So finally, and it was our final curtain song too. I said, Jesse, what about this song? We need a song. This is a perfect song.
And she was, oh my,
Loved
this is it.
And then
This
I
has
used
to
it
be
for my motivation. So then at about 7:18, no, at 7:30, I would start going to a very lonely, scary, dark place to Scrooge, understanding, thinking of his childhood, thinking of everything that got him there, and I can't even tell you how lonely and scary.
It was hard to watch sometimes for me because I was
That's
in
what
the room as well, and it honestly, it was a dark place that he
See,
took
I'm over here
himself
all
to.
emotional, like, how do you
Oh,
even...
it was tough.
It's a lonely. My favorite thing about being done with this play is that I don't have to do that 12 minutes anymore of my
Yeah.
life. 6 times I had to do that, and that was once I got so far in that I had to pull myself out. Now I'm not saying I'm a great actor like Heath Ledger, but what I'm saying is I understand how Heath Ledger died because he was so far in. There was one point I had to pull back like this. I scared myself. And
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you. Didn't you kind of, like, wasn't that like for your own life and your own self, and that...
yes,
That's
I would
deep. I mean,
method
that's-
that a bit. I would method that, and then just realizing like the things that happened to Scrooge as a child, the things that happened to him, and then so you went there to get the hate, and then but also I would feel the power, and like my director would sit in the back, and she said, "I could feel that nastiness when you walked into the crowd."
It was like almost an aura that just
Aura. And he would come in. I needed him to stay close because I trust him, And then the director, at 5 minutes, she would say, "Mr. Scrooge, 5 minutes." She would not call me by name ever. I asked her not to.
That
She
would
knew,
totally-
yeah,
that would-
because I was gone. I wanted Rod to be gone. I was Scrooge. At that point, I was not acting. It was all about getting in the process, okay? And then, but even more so was about staying in the process.
And that's your passion,
Yes.
and I could totally sense that when I came there.
And I
I mean,
would-
it was bigger than life. It was just bigger than life. I don't know.
And it's like people say, what are my favorite parts? Well, my favorite parts were the hardest parts.
Yeah.
My favorite parts were the scene with him because, I think it was poignant where we come together and sit down, and he just lost the love of my life for me, and
Right.
Scrooge is sitting alone on Christmas Eve eating a bowl of gruel, whatever gruel is. So he's eating a bowl of gruel, and so I'm thinking, here's this beautiful woman and who loved me, and he let him go for his, power
Right.
and money and
Yeah.
anger and pride and ego, and stuff like when I was young like that. Ego, who doesn't,
Yeah.
People say, and you always have to be humble about it because it's live theater, anything can happen. You ever say, I really hope we have a great show tonight. I'm thankful that I feel thankful for what happened last night.
Yeah.
So it's that moment when I'm crying, and you have to cry real, your camera's on you, you can't fake tears, and you have to get in that moment of Scrooge thinking all this could have been different if this one moment, if he just would have reached out. And
you
my
can-
whole life, here it is years later, and this whole thing was determined by the fact of that the young ego and arrogance and power and lust and love for money.
Yeah, you could tell that when he plays, the younger you,
Yeah.
and you're standing back there watching this. You could tell it was like, if you could do anything to stop that and change that moment, you would have. And you did a brilliant job.
It was so great.
Zach did a
Working with
fantastic
him. I thought
job.
that was one of the best moments of the play, and it made women cry in the audience. I love when people cry over your work. As an actor, the best thing you can hear in a drama is absolutely nothing. Like
Silence.
there's so moment they're like,
Because you've got everybody captivated.
yeah. And then my other second favorite part was the hearts like I said, oh man, here we go. Is the you're begging for your life scene where you see that you've died, you see your tombstone, and I mean you're on my knees, and it's like, I'm arthritic, I have a torn ligament, I had to go and get cortisone injections in both knees the week of the show, and my
Because you were
foot-
on the floor a
I was
lot. You were on your
dancing
knees a
around,
lot.
dancing around, and I'm crawling on my knees, and I'm begging for your life, and it's like I would know when I came out, this is going to be real.
But I know that you.
It
I don't want it to be
You
good.
can do better.
I wanted to give everything. That's like that last day yesterday for me when I was, pouring my heart out at the end. And
I thought it was so powerful.
It was like, for me, it's 17 years. So, I'm thinking this is everything I've had for 17 years. That's where Red Hot Winter started. The first 5 years of Red Hot Winter was up there. And that
No
Red Hot
kidding.
Winter helped build that theater. Yeah, all those lights and stuff was.
Why
from
is
Red
the
Hot
theater going?
We lost the building because the Air Museum closed and Lincoln's Challenge moved out. So, they didn't
So there's
charge.
nothing-
They gave that space to us to use, but there's no reason to keep it open. So we
You think
lost
there's
it.
gonna be a-
Electricity and heat and
Yeah,
cooling
we're
costs.
gonna
There'll be a
still-
future somewhere?
Still do stuff.
But it just won't be there where it's
Won't be
been
there.
forever.
We may
For
not have
17
a-
years, yeah.
a building. So think about 17 years. I was in the first play ever there, and a lot of plays in between, and every Red Hot Winter, and all the performances there.
Yeah,
that
that's-
final day, and I'm thankful you were there. I told him, I said, I am going to leave everything I have on the stage today.
For coming out. It's been the past president here. It's 17 years of my life here for many of us. So this is a bittersweet moment for us. We'll miss this place. RTV will live on, and thank you very much.